Guys, I'm Stephanie,
And I'm Tiffany.
and we're Sisters of the South. We're coming today to you for another show. It's a more recent case that's happening out in the Tomball area, and it is of a missing girl. She's been missing for the past year, no sight of her, and we wanted to get her face out to you so you could share it with as many people as possible. The parents actually live in the Beaumont area, which is about 2 hours from here, and so they need as much help for anyone in the Harris County area or the Houston area to share her information. So with that being said, let's get started.
Margaret Kay-Alana Turner was last seen in Tomball on the early morning of March 10th, 2023. The one-year anniversary of the disappearance of Kay-Alana Turner has passed, and her family and friends still haven't given up hope that she is still alive today. Kay-Alana is from the Beaumont, Texas area. She was last seen in Tomball, Texas, which is a suburb of Houston, about 2 hours from Beaumont. Kay-Alana stands at 5'4", weighing 124 pounds, with light brown hair and blue eyes. She was last seen wearing a hot pink maxi dress with what appeared to be marker drawings on her arms in black ink. She has a tattoo of the number 13 above a red bow on the right side of her collarbone, and a tattoo in the center of her upper back reading, "Jesus lived and died for all your sins. Damn right he'll rise again." Turner goes by her middle name, Kay-Alana. Her birthday is April 22nd, 1995, which made her 27 at the time of her disappearance.
And I got to say this, that date, April 22nd, 1995, when I read that brought me personally more so than ever to Kay-Alana because my daughter was born the exact same day. So it just put a little extra dagger in my heart on top of that because it could be any of us. It could be our kids, and that's so scary. So it just really touched me.
Yeah, just hit a little closer to home.
Yeah, for sure.
Turner had recently been prescribed Zoloft, an antidepressant, and Ritalin, a stimulant, which usually used for ADHD, for post-traumatic stress.
On that note, we did find some information that with those two medications put together, that it can have some adverse reactions such as hallucinations, confusions, seizures, and cause a serotonin syndrome. So with that being said, if she was misdiagnosed with PTSD, as her parents think, putting her on this medication could really cause some weird reactions. And being misdiagnosed with possibly bipolar is what her parents are thinking. This medication could really cause some chaos.
Which Kay-Alana was also born with a heart condition, which these two medications together can cause heart conditions. So,
well, adding those to that can cause extra anxiety, which she was already dealing with anyway. So I feel like maybe the doctors either didn't know about that information or they didn't take it too seriously and just was giving her medication. I know that they had upped her dosage, I think within a couple of weeks before she come up missing, which was causing some of her confusion and some of her reactions, maybe with anxiety.
Which her therapist had told her, your body just needs to get used to the medication, not taking into consideration everything that was going on with her prior to putting her on this medication.
And that's scary. These are important medications that actually deal with the chemistry of your body. So playing around with that can actually be dangerous. In this situation, dangerous because she can't be found. So it's very important that when we're taking medications, and especially if it's a loved one, to maybe check in on them and find out what they're taking.
Right.
Yeah.
It was possible she was in a manic state. She is also a severe asthmatic and needs an inhaler. So, I mean, there's so many things going on.
Yeah.
On the afternoon of March 9th, 2023, Turner had spent the night with her friend Brittany. Her home is located in Silsbee, Texas. When Brittany left to go to work that morning, she knocked on Kay-Alana's bedroom door, but there was no answer. She left assuming Turner was sleeping. Ring footage shows Kay-Alana around noon knocking on Brittany's door, but not using the code to enter as she normally would. The video shows her waiting for someone to answer before walking off frustrated. She went to the next door neighbor's house and tried to gain entry with a punch code there. When she couldn't, she got in her car and drove away.
And I think in this instance, she left out of the home after the friend left to go to work, and obviously locked herself out. And I think probably in her confusion, she went to go back in the home, tried to remember that number, and thought, well, maybe I'm at the wrong house. So she walks next door to the neighbor's house to try to punch that number code in. But again, in her state of confusion, she possibly had forgotten the number altogether.
Right. Once she got in her car and drove away, she texted her friend saying that she was headed back home to sleep. However, Turner never arrived back home. Another friend who lives in Austin received a call from Kay-Alana that day saying she was heading over to visit him. She had not slept in almost 4 days, and friends and family did not realize she was in full swing of severe manic episode. At 6 p.m. during her drive, she texted her friend Brittany, "No help." This really concerned Kay's boyfriend, James, and Brittany. Once Brittany was able to get a hold of Kay, she erratically responded that she was fine and driving. It was later learned from her friend in Austin that her phone had only 3% battery, so she wrote his name, not his address, on her arm, which was the markings that you could see in the photo.
Yes.
Upon reviewing the doorbell footage, it had been determined Kay only wrote the name of her friend, not his address.
And this kind of shows you her state of mind. Number one, the 3% battery. Even if she'd have needed help with 3% battery, I know my phone, it won't even send a message. In writing the friend's name down and not the address can also show her state of confusion or just anxiety ridden. I'm not quite sure what state of mind she was in, but it wouldn't be your normal problem solving at this point. So she was not in a good state of mind.
Kay continued down 290 on her way to Austin, but she got tired at some point. She pulled off 290 in Hockley and made her way to Bower Landing. The first doorbell footage received shows Kay following a young man into his driveway, where she asked him if she could take a nap because she was so tired. The young man was underage and told Kay he'd need to ask his parents. By the time his parents came outside, Kay-Alana was already pulling out of the driveway. Kay drove around Bower Hills for what could have been several hours, pulling into driveways. Along the way, another gentleman chased her out of his driveway, and she landed in a driveway off Seguin Trail around 3:30 a.m. From a doorbell camera video footage, Kay-Alana believes she made it to Austin and was trying to get her friend to answer the door. Her behavior in those videos showed how confused and disoriented she was at the time.
Now, probably the subdivision she was driving through, they're probably extremely large. In Harris County, you have subdivisions that literally can span over 5 to 10 miles. And it's just road after road that connect over and over again. And sometimes it's hard just to get back on a main drag. So if she's not in a good state of mind or in any type of confusion, I get lost with a GPS in a big subdivision. So I can't even imagine just driving around randomly in an area you're not even familiar with and just driving. And so in her mind, she's getting somewhere and she literally, it's just a maze. She's going nowhere. She's staying in the same spot.
Which I don't know this neighborhood, but our neighborhood is connected to 2 other subdivisions.
Correct.
Which my friend can't even find my house, and she's connected to the other subdivision.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just, it's confusing.
And all the houses will look the same in most instances too. So I can see where she would be confused, especially if she's not in a good state of mind.
Right. She left Bower Hills around 3:50 a.m. and got back on 290, but she got back eastbound instead of west, which would take her to Austin. She landed in Holly Creek Trails in Tomball, where a homeowner found her in his driveway at approximately 6 a.m. Kay was asleep. The homeowner became concerned when she was unresponsive, so he called the constable. He also called other neighbors, as they were a tight-knit community, to stand by as witnesses. When the constable woke Kay up, she was very frightened and did not know what was going on. Being scared, she drove out of the driveway through the gentleman's front yard and onto the street. However, one of the neighbors was blocking the exit, so she couldn't leave. By this point, the constable called Harris County Sheriff's Department for backup. Even though she has never even had so much as a parking ticket, Kay was incredibly fearful and disoriented, which just shows the state of mind she was in, especially just waking up. I mean, you think about waking up from a nap or a good sleep.
After not sleeping for 4 days.
And she was on this medication, disoriented anyway, and she was waking up from a sleep she hadn't had in a long time. So, I mean, I can't even imagine.
Me either.
She slowly drove her car back to the driveway while police followed her on foot. She stopped her car at a picket fence where the officer on foot broke her window in an attempt to take control of the stopped vehicle. He actually broke it with a 2x4
from a fence that she drove through. I'm sorry. I just got to stop right here. She's probably waking up from such a deep sleep. Maybe the windows were tinted. She may not even know it's the police trying to get into her. I'm sure she's in her state of mind just trying to figure out who is this and who's trying to kill me. That's probably what she's thinking. And then to bust her window open with a 2x4.
There were so many better ways to handle the situation. They handled it completely the wrong way.
Why not a billy club? Don't you have a tool that breaks glass open? Why so violent? That's just
like
very
being
scary.
Patient with someone who could possibly have a mental illness. He doesn't know what's going on with her.
Right.
This scared Kay even more, and she took off through the pasture. Officers chased her on foot as Kay drove through 2 pastures and multiple fences and into the woods behind the homes. She made it about half a mile into the woods before her car bogged down in the mud. From there, she got out of the car and began running on foot. She's dropped her phone not too far from the car and somehow made it to Spring Creek. They did say that Spring Creek was kind of low at the time. There wasn't a lot of water in it. Her shoes were found near a log that she used to cross the creek. They were full of glass from her window. Once she crossed Spring Creek into Montgomery County, she ran through another person's pasture and yard and made her way to Decker Prairie Rose Hill Road. The last time Kay-Alana was physically and verifiably seen was driving into the woods around 7 a.m. on Friday, March 10th. Harris County deployed a helicopter to search the woods for her heat signature, but they ran out of fuel and were unsuccessful locating her. However, they did not alert Montgomery County about the situation, further slowing down the process of finding her. Her parents stated that they did not contact Montgomery County for 3 hours.
3 hours is a long time.
I mean, who knows where she could have gone in 3 hours on foot?
Well, you've got to think she's barefooted. And guys, we live in the Harris County district here in Houston, and the woods of North Houston is very thick. It has a lot of sticker burrs. There's a lot of aggressive grass and weeds that grow, holes in the ground if it's pastures.
It is woods.
It's deep woods, what most people call thicket. So I can't imagine her state of mind being where it was, but then running. The bottoms of her feet, the soles of her feet have to be sore. They cut, probably have sticker burrs in them, and it makes it really hard to keep going. She couldn't run in her shoes because they had glass in it. But thinking about it, it would almost be easier for her to run with the glass in her shoes than it would be to run through the thicket that she's is approaching at this point in time. So I can't imagine that she got too extremely far. And that's what's so confusing about this case.
I'm sure just trying to find somewhere to hide because she's so terrified at this time.
Yeah, she's terrified.
I'm sure that would be, I'm going to say that would maybe, if I'm that scared that someone's after me, that would be my first thought. I hope I'm not ever in that situation to find out. But she didn't know what was going on and she was confused. So she's looking for somewhere to hide, right?
Yeah. So the adrenaline, she already has a heart issue. So I'm sure she is short of breath and just in panic mode at this point. What really concerns me is the cops ran out of fuel. Wouldn't you go in a helicopter, fill it up before you start searching for someone? There's so many downfalls on this case searching for this young lady. And it almost feels like they're not taking it serious or they don't think she's important. Um, I, I don't understand it.
Well, I have to say, I mean, over our subdivision, there's always a helicopter searching for someone. Where I live, a lot of criminals run from the cops in our area. So you would think they have fuel on hand at all times, keep
Right.
it filled up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's their job.
Right. You had one job.
Yeah.
To find this young lady. She's not a large person. She's not a grown man. So she's pretty vulnerable. So what were they scared of? That's why I go back to, did they even care? How serious did they take this?
I feel it's pure laziness. I will just be honest. I'm a little terrified. I live in Harris County.
Yeah, it's very scary that they would just throw the situation in the garbage and move on. Let's not even communicate with the next door county. Let's just pack it up and go home. We ran out of fuel. You know, the other thing that really frustrates me in this case is the cops wear body cams. They will not release the body cam footage to their parents or to the family.
I feel
And
like
why
there's
not?
a reason for that.
Why not? Well, I mean, listen, all the police departments have been under scrutiny for a long time, and we are 100% support of the blue. 100%. All of our first responders, police officers were 100% in support. But police footage is not only to protect the police officer, but it's to protect the perpetrator or the person they're dealing with.
Yes.
Why not release that information? My first instinct goes back to Jackson, Mississippi, where we had 250, 300 people that had been missing, and they found them in pauper burials in the back of the police station. So you start thinking along those lines, and you don't want to, especially when this is the county that you live in. And I am just so thankful that I've not had to deal with this, because I would be a raving lunatic. I would be put in jail, but I would be fighting with these people, and it would not be nice. Her parents actually have grace and dignity in the way they've handled it. I'm not sure I could do it.
Well, her parents, Robbie and Rosa Calhoun, reported her missing around 11 a.m. on Friday, March 10th. And Texas EcuSearch, which is the largest and best search team you can have,
They're wonderful.
Became involved. They searched the wooded area where she had last been seen extensively on Saturday morning and determined that she made it to Decker Prairie, where she either got a ride or continued on foot. Sadly, and for reasons that do not fully make sense, Harris County made the decision to cancel the missing persons report and to press charges against Kay-Alana. They have charged her with felony evasion of arrest because there was a felony charge pending. Texas EcuSearch is no longer allowed to help with the case. We're begging for assistance to help with this charge being dropped so they can continue using Texas EcuSearch to find Kay-Alana.
And the reason why they did a felony charge is because when she was backing out and trying to get to safety, and I'm sure that's what was in her mind, she was backing out and almost hit two of the officers. Not on purpose. I'm sure it was not on purpose.
She may not have even seen him there.
Right.
She was
It's
just
dark.
trying to escape.
Right. And so they
her.
charged her as a felony for that. And I don't understand. It's not like she was, aggressively trying to hurt them on purpose. She was just trying to get away because she didn't understand the situation at hand. So I just find this very negligent on Harris County's part at this point.
Well, the family has contacted Governor Greg Abbott's office for assistance and are reaching out to the House of Representatives in the district to help get this charge dropped. They're asking for help by reaching out to Greg Abbott at 512-463-2000 and Representative Morgan Luttrell at 281-305-7890 and ask them to drop the charge and begin looking for Kay-Alana once again as a missing person. The Harris County Police are refusing to release the cam footage, as we said. They impounded her car. Her parents tried to get it out of impound, and they said that since it was not in it was in Kay-Alana's name, not their name, that they couldn't have it. But it has since been sold at auction. The family was never notified of it being sold. They have no idea what happened to Kay-Alana's belongings that were left in the car, which would possibly be evidence of everything that was going on with her. She had a lot of clothes in her car, vintage clothes. She had a vintage shop, and she had the clothes in her vehicle at the time.
Well, the police had gone to her parents and said, "Were you aware that your daughter was on drugs and homeless?" Just assuming that because of her car. But in the meantime, there's a story that leads up to that, which is she was living in a home that had bed bugs. And she was selling these vintage clothes and did not want to sell them with bed bugs in them. So she had taken all of the vintage clothing that she had collected and washed them and had left them in her car so the bed bugs wouldn't get on them. So that's why she had a lot of clothing in her car. So the police's assumption that Kay-Alana was on drugs and homeless, it was just that, an assumption. She was never a known drug user other than her prescriptions from her doctors, and she had a home. So where did they get their information? My question is, were they out stomping the pavement, speaking to people, if possibly that had seen her?
Well, from my understanding, they didn't even question her parents enough to find out anything about her.
Or her background.
And her background. I mean, it was just their assumptions. And
Harris County, you have one job. That's to keep people safe. What happened here? If that's my daughter, I want you to handle her with care. Period. If it's me, if it's my sons, if it's my grandchildren, my nieces, handle them with care. We have to be more open to people who have mental illnesses, mental stresses. Since 2020, during
issues.
COVID.
I mean,
yeah,
just her heart condition alone is terrifying for her parents, that she's out there without, anything.
It's just disturbing. I get very angry over this.
Yeah, because experiencing a mental health crisis should not make you a criminal.
No, absolutely not.
So Kay is vulnerable on foot with no food, water, shelter, cell phone, ID, or medication in an area she is totally unfamiliar with. Yeah. She's disoriented and confused.
And not only that, guys, she knows nobody here.
Yeah.
Absolutely knows no one. Anyone that would approach her would be a stranger, just like the police officers. So if she at any time realized, oh, that's the police, and she feels unsafe, imagine if a total civilian walked up to her, how unsafe and paranoid she might be. And she knows no one.
And just learning about her for this story, she was an amazing girl. Woman. She was determined and inspiring and a natural leader.
That was the characteristics that Lamar University used to describe her. So she was an educated young lady. She originally was majoring only in management. Turner reached a pivotal point in her education during her 2015 studies in Salamanca, Spain. And I'm sorry, I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, for a Spanish course. There, she discovered her passion for exploring new cultures. Turner was inspired by her success with the Spanish language while abroad, which spurred her decision to make it a second major. Kay-Alana said, "It feels good to know that I can now talk to 21 Spanish speaking countries in the world. It feels like unlocking some barrier. There are all these new places where I can interact in a whole new way. So she not only took on that major, but she took it to heart as well.
And encouraged by her summer trip abroad, Turner signed up for another international trip, a business course in Costa Rica and Panama during spring break of 2016. Her studies of local and multinational companies kindled her interest in the ecotourism industry. Her life leading up to her disappearance was just amazing. In 2020, during the pandemic, Turner was living in New York and working at a hotel in Times Square. She had to commute on the subway for over an hour one way each day. She was sending pictures to her family with no one in the subway. She would have to make eye contact with the attendant to remind him that she was on the subway so she wouldn't be forgotten. She was able to work the whole time because no one was showing up to work due to the lockdown. She took pictures of herself standing in Times Square alone in the middle of the day. It was like a ghost town. Due to her loneliness, fear of the pandemic, and being homesick, this all took a toll on her feeling of well-being. By April or May of 2022, Turner came back home to Texas. Now, they said her parents described that she was, after everything she had experienced during the pandemic in New York, she would wear a mask inside. She was just scared of everything, that she would sit and shake, and she never did this prior to being in New York.
And that is probably where she accumulated her PTSD. Right. She's there by herself. She's probably listening to the news. She's trying to adhere to the rules every day, sometimes twice a day, that they would send out, changing, with the mask wearing and who could go out when, what businesses were open. And she was willing to put herself out there and work hard, even when a lot of people weren't doing that. And so I'm sure that took a toll on her mental health tremendously.
Turner is a celebrated local musician in Beaumont, Texas. She plays the guitar and writes songs. She loves wearing vintage clothes and has a business selling it, as we said. Mm-hmm. She set up a book box in her hometown for the homeless and volunteered to help.
Amazing.
Amazing person. It is just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
The Calhoun family are still holding candlelight vigils in Kay-Alana for awareness. We continue to believe that we will see Kay again. We believe she's alive. We have no indication or evidence otherwise, said her father, Robbie Calhoun. Anyone with information on Turner's whereabouts is urged to contact Texas EcuSearch at 281-309-9500 or Crime Stoppers at 713-222-8477.
And must I say, we're not going to put Harris County's number out there. If we put their number out there, all that's going to do is trigger, if you call it, for them to arrest her. And at this point, she doesn't need to be arrested. If she's found and brought back home, which is what our prayers are for, she needs to go to a hospital, be looked over, and be loved. Not criticized and put in jail and then put in the system. So if you want to call Harris County, if you see her, by all means do so. But I don't recommend it at this point. They've not been any help to the family.
Yeah, they've proven to us that they're not interested.
No, they just want to put her in jail. Yeah.
We're sending up prayers to Rosa and Robbie Calhoun and the whole Calhoun family that Kay-Alana is found safe and returned home.
Absolutely.
And until our next episode, remember to hit that like button at the bottom of the screen and subscribe for more true crime content every week, which is completely free. Yay. Also, share this with your friends.
Yeah, please get her face out there, guys. It's very important to help this family, especially since they're so far away.
Which is why we're here, just to put faces out there. Yeah. Because I mean, we talked about it before even doing this story. We live in a large city, so even if you watch the news, it may be on there for a few seconds and then they're done.
They glaze over.
There's so many things that we miss every single day.
Right. So we just want to right a wrong and put those faces out there where the media falls short. Yeah.
So, all right, guys, until next time,
Most importantly, see the
see the good and stay imperfectly perfect. Bye,
Thank you,
guys.
guys.